And tonight is November 29th, 2006. We're gathered here in Santa Rosa. Hello to those of you who are gathered on the conference line around the United States or around the world. And we are here tonight for an important discussion. How have you been? An important discussion about truth. And our discussion tonight, we're going to talk about our search for truth. Gyalpo, are you sure you don't want to come up here? I think this might be more comfortable for you. Would you please come? Pema, there's a space right here too. Yeah, bring your back jack here. You might want that too. There you go. There's a good spot right there too. Good, very good. All right. And we're going to talk about search for truth. Now, you know, this subject is very romantic, isn't it? It have feelings of extreme importance, and it have a feeling that make you just want to I don't know, maybe not, but I think just make you want to just take out your fingernails and say, I will not budge from this until I know the truth, like that. And this search for truth, by that meaning, come as a kind of gripping feeling that there's something that you want to know. It's important, and you want to have. You want to possess the truth, and like that, aside from that important feeling, that important dynamic that you are experiencing from time to time. Perhaps not at the present moment, but perhaps it will come later in the evening, that this search for truth has some important elements which perhaps you have not thought about, and let's think about them together. Don't mind, I'm going to have you move, maybe, I don't know, if you want to move over here a little bit more, a little bit,
so you can see
little bit blocking there. Yeah, come over here, this way. There you go, dear. Just don't turn your back to the altar. There you go. Very good. All right. So, I have a question for you. There is something about this search for truth that needs to be examined in order for you to do to have a quality search. And so what is the criteria that you are using to establish whether something is true or not? What kind of criteria are you using? It's very good to answer like what other people might be using, or maybe like outside there, some foolish people like that. Might be using for criteria, but the actual question is, what criteria are you using? And in that way, what do you think? Yes, dear?
For me, it's an intuition. It's like a feeling that something feels right, or feels resonant.
All right. Yes, that was an important answer that when I was thinking about this subject, that was a very important part. But what are some of the other? We're going to come back to that a little bit. You know, my first answer, the criteria that you might be using to establish whether something is true or not is what others are saying is true. And like that. This criteria can present to you educational opportunities. For example, if you say, if you're in school and your teacher says the world is round, that there is something about the position that your teacher holds that you say, okay, and you go along with that premise so that you can learn other things. And so this is a very valuable dynamic for you to understand what is true and what is not true. And in that way, what others saying is true has yes, can also have very unfortunate consequences. For example, if somebody gossiping about a third party, and you believe you like this person that's saying it, and this person, for example, maybe they know physics or astronomy. Let's say astronomy. So I'm just reading National Geographic, and they're talking about the rings of Saturn, so they're a little bit fresh in my mind. So they know a good deal about astronomy, and they say something about a person that you both know, and you believe them because they're very good astronomy. Huh? And so the criteria that you might be using, what other people are saying is true. Huh?
Do you mean astrology?
Astronomy.
Astronomy, that saying something's, okay, that's right, I'll keep this.
Well, I'm using an extreme example. So that we can root out issues like that. What are some of the other criteria that you use, that you might use from time to time?
Something you could touch, or a sensational type of thing. Tactile.
Criteria whether something is true or not. Well, this is very good. This is a very classic example that the criteria that you use is coming from your five senses. Now, would anyone like to answer that question from a philosophical point of view? Huh? Yes?
Well, the senses can be deceiving.
The senses can be deceiving, and yet it is one of the important methods that you used, whether you can establish where something is true or not. So we have to say whether something is true in one sense, that your sensory data may be faulty in another sense and not give you the answer that you wish. Now, because we're talking about the search for truth, how do you think that the search for truth comes along with your sense data? Will that help?
I trust my senses.
You trust your senses. Touch, taste, feel, touch, taste, hearing, like that.
Sight.
Okay,
I don't always trust my hearing.
all right. My example is what others teach you. A criteria that you use to establish whether something is true or not is what others are teaching you by example or by education. And like that, there was a story, I think this was in a movie, actually I saw it, where some island people had, there were some strangers who came to their island and they couldn't understand how they arrived there. And these people said that they were, or indicated that they had come by the sea, and when they went down to the ocean, they couldn't see anything. And did you see this movie? I think it was like in What the Bleep or something like that. And the shaman, no one could see, and the shaman went down to the sea and did certain rituals and prayers and clarifications, and eventually he could see the marks in the water where the ship was lying but couldn't see the ship itself, like that. And so this is an example. I think I'll move this down here.
The shaman eventually did see the ship in the movie, at least.
He did see the ship.
I think it was first the ripples in the water that clued him into something, and he kept looking, and then
That's
eventually
right.
just the ship
Okay,
popped up.
like that. Like that. The criteria what others teach you, the criteria that using to search for truth, also implies a certain kind of cultural as well as from the era that you live in, as well as your status, whatever that is in your society, that can literally prevent you from seeing something that is right there in front of your eyes due to some kind of cultural conditioning like that. And there was another example where a Inuit people who, before they had any kind of electricity or televisions, this was back in the 1970s, I understand, that a group of Inuit people were shown a TV show for the first time, and these people could not see anything on the television set. You read that too? And they could see, I believe, like moving shapes, but they couldn't relate it to human figures. And like that, they had no cultural conditioning to be able to see what was extremely obvious was there. Now, the reason why I say this is because in the West, that there is a tremendous pressure upon members of your culture to have a blind spot to that which is patently obvious to other cultures. And in that way, there are perceptions that you culturally possess which become okay, for you to understand that in the Orient, people do not have those perceptions like that. I not have any exact examples, but in the important example that I'm looking at, which has to do with how you actually exist and the nature of reality, that there is a very exciting breakthrough in your future. Because that which is extremely obvious to those, to some, is absolutely unknown to those who are not possessing interior awarenesses like that. And in that way, ordinary people are not able to see interior reality, which is the next step in the evolutionary development of your own being, due to some kind of human agreement like that. And yes. What are some other ways, some other methods for establishing a criteria? Emotional. That using an emotional criteria. Now you said intuition. How is the emotional, the truth, the establishment of criteria of whether something is true or not? How shall we differentiate intuition and resonance from emotional?
The example I was thinking of was allowing bad feelings or good feelings to sway your interpretation, your belief about someone. If someone hurts you, they're all bad, you can't see anything good about them, and you won't allow yourself to see anything good about them, because if you did, that would threaten your interpretation of reality.
All right, and very well said. This basis is very commonly used, and it also has to do with, for example, with Tibetans, that anything that's Chinese is bad and wrong, like that, and for like what they call the Serbians and the Croatians, like that, that people are using national origin, or whether someone is of another ethnic group or racial group, that it colors tremendously, that racism acts as a huge deterrent, like a cloud, an agenda that colors your perceptions in being able to understand the nature of truth. And like that, the emotional response feeds often. Now, am I reading into that? Does that read into a negativity, or could the emotional response? Now, remember, we're heading toward understanding the search for truth. So, how does the search for truth become this emotional criteria? How does that relate to
I think it's the original judgment, the one babies use. If mother feeds you, she's good. If something gives you pleasure, it's good. If something hurts you, it's bad. And it's very simple, very primitive, very elementary way of deciding what reality is.
Can we say then that if it feels good, it must be true? Huh?
Not necessarily. Because then, a
I'm
lot of
trying to
people would
lead
say,
you down a garden path here.
a lot of people would say that heroin must be good because it feels good.
Well, then a lot of them do. A lot of them feel that these drugs are truth itself. I hear it from people that they call the drug the name of truth and beauty and graciousness.
Ecstasy, for instance.
Yeah. So I think we might be able to say that a criteria for truth, not for you, but for people who aren't here right now, because they're busy doing other things like that. that in fact, their criteria for truth, they may be searching for truth. People take mushrooms and marijuana as part of religious ceremonies, and I questioned someone not too long ago, and I said, what would it be like? Could you possibly have this same experience without the use of these drugs? And they said that they didn't think so, that it was actually part of it. And I didn't tell them that what's going to happen to you after your human life is over and you don't have access to these drugs like that, but you're still alive, then what you going to do, like that? Yes, dear?
I was going to say the scientific method, like testing things.
Oh, very good.
To have like a double-blind study where you
Scientific method.
Yeah, and then trying to have somebody else do the same thing again and get the same results.
All
Maybe
right.
more than once, even like a bunch of times.
Okay, so you have a criteria which is based on empirical, as you were saying here. May I say it like that? Empirical evidence, reproducible evidence.
You can study everything that way, but I think it's a good criteria for truth.
Yes, it is a criteria. It is a criteria that many use, and I was reading recently, I don't know if anyone else heard this or not, that that the very subject, the very point that you are making, is now up for discussion. They are finding. Did you read that?
Yeah, I've been reading about it for a couple of years. That you're very influenced in thinking about the process can sometimes affect.
Oh no, not that.
No.
They're saying that the scientific method. They're saying one person on one side they say that this cannot be manipulated. Now I don't know if I was telling this exactly correctly. And on the other side, that there have been myriad methods to induce agenda into the scientific process in order to establish methods for developing stages of truth based upon results when the only agenda is of a certain kind, that there is not an open agenda, open to hear whatever truths come, that some truths will be accepted and other truths will not be looked at. Now, for the basis of our discussion here tonight, talking about the search for truth, and we're not talking, when we're talking about higher level truths, that this sense of high agenda and fear can't be allowed. And so the very thing which is very much ingrained into Western society is this empirical, scientific, reproducible effect actually might not be working as well as you want it to. However, certain elements of it are alive in you and very, very strong in your education and your personal process. Like that. So,
Could it be that that's the most easily acceptable route to truth?
actually, in the West, the scientific approach is one that has become king. Whereas in other places in the world, that process is not very much admired. Yes? All right. Another method that you might be using would be common sense. Isn't that so? Common sense using whatever logic, that you have, whether that logic is correct or not. And this is something that everyone uses. That you assume through common sense that something is valid and true, and the person sitting next to you would have another activity and another result, another process that they would also call common sense based upon their own logic. And the interesting thing is that common sense is always self-referent to your own knowledge, mixed with what others think, as well as what you have, whatever your cultural conditioning is. In Nepal, that it's only common sense that you slit the throat of a young water buffalo and catch that blood in a bucket and then splash it onto a deity statue. It's only common sense, like that. And here in California, I bring this example up just to horrify you, like that. And like that, what is common sense, based upon certain kinds and levels of logic, are very, very important methods for you to display and to practice your logic informally. Isn't that so? Yes.
So when we talk about truth, don't we have to talk about relative truth versus absolute truth?
Yes, they're different levels of truth.
Yeah, almost everything that we call truth is relative, and it changes as time goes on.
Yes, yes.
Pluto was a planet for a long time.
Poor Pluto. Now it's what's called a dwarf something or other.
A planet.
Huh?
A planet.
A dwarf planet.
Planet.
A planetet.
I thought they replanetized it.
Yeah. Very good.
Oh,
Yeah.
they voted again.
This, the methods by which you are developing strategies in this important search for truth are influenced by the criteria which are already alive in you that you are able to use as tools for this important search. So if they remain unexamined, that you might arrive at some very strange ideas about truth and falsity that bear no relationship upon reality. Like that. And so in our ongoing discussion about discrimination and careful understanding, this is an important area like that. So another method, another criteria that you use for understanding truth is books of wisdom, books of wisdoms, or including ones, books of sayings. You know, I recently reading about Benjamin Franklin, and some of the books that he has written, that he collected of sayings of his time about crops and about the nature of people and trust, and I don't know if Benjamin Franklin talked about love. Somehow that not seem very reasonable about Benjamin Franklin. But aphorisms, such as a penny saved is a penny earned, and these sparkles of aphorisms, including things that your grandmother said. I had a student who said when encouraged to get a cat out of a tree, refused and said, "How many cat skeletons do you see up in trees?" And like that, these sayings remain alive in you, and you could use them. You could use them in all kinds of fanciful manners, having to do with many different kinds of processes, like that, and what other kinds of books of wisdom, such as the Bible, and people you read in the paper. You know, it's so sad, and I don't have any disrespect for the Christianity, but a number of people have killed other people based upon what they read in the Bible. And even in the time of the Crusades, that based upon biblical injunctions, people would go out and do the most awful things that they felt had something to do with the truth of spiritual life hereafter, and even like that. Yes. However, when books of wisdom, yes, by seeing that others, I see, when you see that others have changed, or benefited, or found truth by reading and thinking about the information that they find in books of wisdom, such as religious scriptures, that this has been a time-honored process to hold, a time-honored process to develop a sense of discrimination in truth-seeking. And as Gelpa was saying, that there are different kinds of truths for different situations. For example, you might say, eat from the 4 different food groups in order to stay healthy, like that. Or you might say, don't eat yellow snow.
Frank, that.
you might say, meditate regularly and correctly for health. So these three different situations produce different kinds of truths, and you have certain dynamics that you move into, a little bit playful, having to do with yellow snow, and within different situations you have different valuations that you are placing upon truth, and sometimes this, I have to tell you this honestly, that in the Oriental system, anything having to do with truth or religion or interior process, or you mention like Jetsun Kappa, the Buddha Jetsun Kappa, second Buddha, we call him, founder of the Gelug tradition, or Lord Buddha Shakyamuni, and then maybe make a joke, make it some kind of a joke, Oriental people become very offended and feel that the criteria that person is using has taken that holy, when you start with a holy object, and for those of you coming to India, and we all looking forward to it, be very careful when you go to India like that. We not make any jokes about holy objects, that you take the holy objects and you just and rub it in the dirt. And in Western criteria, people will have a very sincere and careful attitude toward their search for truth, and then they turn themselves around and they make a joke on themselves because they're not exactly sure that what they are searching for is valid or that is acceptable, and so they make some kind of a joke on it in order to I not exactly understand why, but in order to satisfy anybody who is doesn't believe that the search for truth is valid. And so the idea of sacred and holy and being able to maintain a seriousness is very difficult in Western practitioners like that. And this actually, it come very important to be able to share that, and yet I don't want you to be to feel afraid or feel like you can't say anything, because this dynamic is alive in you, that you want to say something that's sacred, and then you don't want to feel like it's so serious that you can't have fun. And so you do both, and you kind of mix it all together, and but I okay with it, but there is something to do with this search for truth that has this kind of roller coaster effect on the way you think about holy objects and sacred objects, huh? Like that? It's okay I say like that? All right. And another method, another criteria that many use for establishing whether something is true or not is contemporary wisdom. For example, and here I California, so I have to move it like this, but that the very, very strong, politically correct speech and politically correct motivation, and environmentally, and saying words like green, green, what they call green living, huh?
Sure.
Green living, like that. These things, like that.
Green business.
And, huh?
Green business.
Green business, ooh, like that. And everybody come very happy and like that. And this is how you establish something as being true has to do with contemporary wisdom. And so we can look back 5 years ago, or at your own attitudes 10 years ago, if you should be old enough, or 15 or 20 years ago. And so you can castigate yourself for the way you used to think, or better yet, we can castigate third world countries or second world countries for doing the things that you did last year, like that, because they don't have the money or the technology in order to do things as green as we do them here in California, like that. Are you with me?
Mhm.
I am not saying that green is bad and wrong, to be very careful here. What I'm saying is that the criteria that you use for discovering what is true can become quite gripping onto the value of contemporary wisdom as a tool for deciding what is true and valid. And so you move in a stream, and whatever anybody else is thinking, that you also will think that way. As well as, and in the same category, political truths. Color your method of being able to establish what is true and real from what is false and unreal. And this country has become very divided and very colored by the agenda of whichever political party you happen to belong to. And in fact, I hear that sometimes people who are of one political party feel very uncomfortable around people from another political party, or who support another political party, even in social settings, for fear that they might step into their criteria by which they establish what is good and true and valid in their own life, that someone might question them regarding their values. And so they avoid going out into group settings where that might happen. Huh? Is it true? Yes?
Because their belief is so weak they can't stand to be challenged.
It could be, or perhaps they think that they are secure in their own, and they don't need to have other people tell them different. I can't judge their motivation, but I do know that it comes as a criteria based upon political views. Huh?
Yeah.
All right, and it colors. And if you think your political views should color your political leanings, but it doesn't. It enters into social. It enters into how you make money. It enters into who you choose as your friends. Many different areas of your life. Huh? And political truths and realities that the continuous infusion that we are subjected to regarding political truths and realities, if you really believed everything that you were told, that you would believe something different almost every week. And in that way, you have to jump when they say jump. And this not quite as prevalent here as it is in, for example, in China or in Tibet, that people are told what they are expected to think, and even in their own minds, that they are holding their minds into a very careful and rigid pattern so that they don't get into trouble by thinking the wrong thing. And in Tibet, if you think the wrong thing, you might accidentally say the wrong thing, and then you might endanger not only yourself but your family. So it becomes a matter of life and death to be able to think the right things regarding political truths and realities. Actually, you have a lot more freedom here. True? All right. And also, many people believe, take as criteria for establishing what they believe untrue by what they read in the newspapers and magazines and television set. And like that. So, the other method, as you were saying earlier, was something feeling inside. Well, this is easier now. Something that you feel inside is true and you resonate. Could also be experiences from earlier, either happy or unhappy experiences that you learn from your experiences, and you use those experiences to establish the reality and the validity of other experiences. This is very normal thinking, and this is very careful thinking when you are moving in everyday life. However, when it comes to establishing criteria for inner realities and nature of reality, the very thing that you wish to establish and wish to know, what is true and what is real, what is reality, that these criteria, and they are something that you feel inside and you resonate with, but they are not very careful criteria for establishing the real thing that you want. So, however, there is a resonance. There is a method, which you said, and I also call it resonance, which is a feeling in the heart center, not in your physical heart, but in your heart center, that feels like something waking up. Now, this is a different kind of resonance that literally almost feels like you've been, like inside, like you've been looking down, and suddenly you look up and you become alert. Not just resonance, but you become alert inside. Like that. So, now you have a great mixture of different strategies which have been you have been indoctrinated, that you have perhaps by convenience that you have used, perhaps by social necessity, and then your inside experiences, whether they're happy or unhappy, as well as a deeper experience of this resonance. And now you take all of these various criteria and you mix them together like that, and I'm wondering how do these inner factors affect or change your criteria by interacting inside you. It's a bit of a mixture, isn't it? Bit of a mixture. And even I saying about something sacred, something as sacred as a search for ultimate meaning. And then you have to joke yourself by demeaning, not everyone, but I think almost everyone do this once in a while, by demeaning or making a joke out of your sacred search, like that. How does that change your ability to resonate carefully, so that you have a valid method to understand whether something is true or not. So, there are also other issues that surround your search for truth. One of them could be a strong feeling of agonizing inside yourself because you are experiencing, you might be experiencing, you probably are, you might be experiencing living a life that's a lie. I think many people on spiritual search, spiritual seeking, have this feeling overwhelm them from time to time, and like being under a heavy, smelly, wet blanket. That's a dirty, smelly, wet blanket that maybe the cow pooped on. I don't know. Really, there's something that's like heavy and disgusting and uncomfortable and dark, and you're hiding under. It's been thrown over, and you want to just take it, and you want to just rip it off and throw it off. This is another issue, an important issue, and I acknowledge this feeling, and yet something prevents you from throwing that off, even though it's the very thing which you energetically want to do. This is something that I would call wanting to be alive. Now, due to learning the language, I kind of like this idea about the blanket, the heavy blanket, because it's oppressive, and because I come from long tradition, where we assume that we are going to be alive like that, alive like that. That this idea of this oppressive quality is associated with not being alive, and that's about the worst thing that could happen to us, isn't it? And this dynamic of feeling oppressed, as well as looking for and establishing discrimination and criteria for the truth seeking, becomes very confusing. It becomes confusing, and like that. And however, this suffering that you are experiencing in not having the truth, not knowing, or not being able to experience this alive feeling, double alive, I'm going to say, actually is a kind of a blessing. It's a blessing, because it alerts you and causes you to want to change. Isn't that so? If you didn't have that feeling, you wouldn't take steps to change it. And there is a kind of energetic anger associated with this. This feeling of living a life a lie makes you angry. You don't know at who or at what, but you feel angry and you feel upset about it. And that energy of that determination, that wish, can cause your inner process, your inner resonance, I'm going to say, to redouble. to want to seek truth. And in this way, your criteria begin to crumble. You say, if I can't believe what my early religious education taught me, and I reject this, and I reject what the newspapers say, and I reject that, or I question this and question that. I question my own motives. I question the motives of my parents. I question the motives of my friends. And you become very difficult to get along with. That somehow nothing satisfies you at that point. This energy needs to be, at that point, needs to be directed into a careful method to get the desired result, like that. Now, how that motivation can possibly harm you, can harm you or harm others, that very agonizing, is that you could become angry, and your thinking could deteriorate. Usual anger do that. And when you can't think, then you become more spontaneous, shall we say. And in that way, this spontaneous new you that can't think and is angry at you don't know what, that as soon as someone brings you coffee that not quite hot enough, it's their fault. And somehow all of the issues surrounding not being able to live life as you wish, not being able to have opportunities to seek truth in the way you want to, that somehow it's all their fault. The very thing that could have been a blessing has made you quite scary to be with. Huh? Like that. And that's why I said this energy needs to be directed carefully, so that you don't move into the logical next step, which is blaming others for your lack of time or a situation that others are preventing you from being the spiritual seeker or the truth seeker. And this could be like people at work or having to earn a living, that it's all the fault of others. And once that blame go to others, that this can accumulate like a snowball, and you can forget exactly what it was that you were trying to establish, which was to break free of this uncomfortable feeling, this uncomfortable situation in a dramatic way, and it becomes the interaction between the blame that you established as belonging to this one or that group, and you cease to have an inner process interacting with your own mind. Huh? So, in addition, once you get angry, once you allow this feeling of determination, which is truly it is, this determination that you by not being able to think very clearly, even if beneficial situations arise for you, you might not be able to make a beneficial change. You might not make the right decision because you're not able to think, nor are you able to resonate carefully. So, in this way, you could tire yourself out through this energetic, what you call uprising, and you get tired, and then you become depressed, and then you give up. I think this is a fairly common story. Yes? Like that. You can also, the anxiety that you might feel as you get older, and time is moving on, and you haven't gotten any closer to discovering this truth, this reality that you had fully intended upon establishing even at a very young age. And then now gray hairs are coming, and don't feel like you're any closer to knowing the nature of reality than you were when you made the decision. And so this produces another kind of anxiety, and in that way, you might start changing the way you think about yourself. You might decide that the blame actually belongs with you, and that you don't deserve to know the nature of reality. And you might punish yourself, find inventive methods to punish yourself for not having achieved your potential. And in that way, this anxiety that you might feel, which is actually started out in a very healthy way, can become destructive. And even you might get angry with truth because it eludes you. Or like stories that we hear often about people becoming angry with God. And in that way, again, you could become tired. That anxiety exhausts you, and you become depressed, and you give up. And like that, the stress, another issue, is, and this is very important in the West, is that the stress that you experience just from daily living takes the very best part of your life, that you are expected to go to work. You're expected to go to work and produce money for your company, or whatever it is that you produce. Maybe it's car parts or whatever it is. And all you're expected to produce it with a very good motivation and very careful like that. However, when you look at it another way, you're saying, my whole life, they're getting the best bits, the tastiest bits. And in the morning, before I go to work, and at night when I come home from work, I get all the leftovers. I'm tired. And like that, the stress from everyday living can wear you down and make you less capable of being able to sustain this important search that you promised yourself. Huh? And so, some people are delighted to throw off this stress of everyday life and dive into a life of renunciation and happy to be rid of the thorn of the stress of ordinary daily life. And they might do that by making decisions such as taking ordination vows or entering into a reclusive lifestyle. It still happens, even in 2006, people do this. that they won't tolerate it. They won't tolerate it anymore. It's not worth it. Others, some make decisions to seek freedom. Decide to seek freedom. And they make promises, not just like a New Year's Day kind of promise, but strong, energetic promises, deep promises that they are going to seek freedom. They make a promise to themselves. And vows, such as bodhicitta vows, like that, are, in their best form, an energetic promise, which is embedded into your very being. Others will make simplification. They will simplify their life so that there are fewer objects which they need to control, like that. Even today, I took a carload of things over to Goodwill, so I feel quite happy about that. And making time management decisions, simplifying. Another thing you can do, another problem that is reading about the lives of holy beings and seeing them as something that could happen to others, but that can't happen to you. Tibetans are very famous for doing this. That they see themselves in one way, and they see holy beings or accomplished meditators in another way, and in that way they unhook their own process from the inspiration of the lives of holy beings, like that. Now this, some people will create a fantasy place in their own mind. Will create a fantasy place in their own mind, where you are king or queen, admired and living in there as your spiritual place. And is this a fantasy? Where you have a certain place that you can go in your mind and you are quite okay, that you are completely at peace, or you are the important one. Places like this isn't fantasy. The these escapist places for people who are really interested in searching for reality, that those fantasy places need to be closed with a certain amount of determination so that the real search can be done. Creating a fantasy place in your mind where you are total peace and nothing is important to you. This is another method that some people use. However, if you return from that place and quickly become angry for some reason, or if you feel that others are fools, means that this is a fantasy. Many people doing meditation practice fall into this dynamic, this escapist dynamic, and I like to have this opportunity to invite those who might be participating in this, feeling as though it is a valid meditation place. Please invite you back to the actual place of search and discovery. If you feel that others are fools, or if you feel where you can easily become angry and you lose your peace, you lose your sense of peace very quickly, it means that that was a fantasy. The pleasure, another method to help you gain a correct sense of discrimination regarding that is the pleasure that you could feel in joining countless other beings who are on valid paths to reality. That you are not alone in your search, although your search is happening inside you with a certain kind of dynamic and certain combination of elements which are uniquely you, that you are also on the path with countless beings, even at this moment, who are also seeking the nature of reality. And that produces a kind of rejoicing and pleasure which you should fully indulge in. Good. The path to reality in the human realm encourages people to seek what they do not know. And there is a sense of safety also in knowing that countless other beings are seeking truth as being valuable. That you are not the only one, that there are countless other beings who also find it valuable, even though some days it doesn't seem like that, that I assure you that that is true. And within this change of attitude, that you will be able to find traditions and authentic guides like a magnet. That there should be a wonderment and an intensity of inner curiosity that drives your sense of seeking truth. That this return to a more careful, uncluttered method of seeking truth is more in line with valid, authentic paths. This sense of sophistication and having to learn this and to obtain all different kinds of learning is not as valuable as the wonderment and the sense of open curiosity that drives authentic process. You don't want to become more sophisticated. You want to become more careful and less sophisticated. This method opens a receptivity that seeks truth in a new way. It heals the damage of inferior criteria for seeking truth, so you can listen, so that you can hear carefully what truth is. By seeking what you do not have, means that you are not yet the container for truth. True? An open-minded attitude will allow your inner mind to explore the transitional truths, which are the actual truth that you seek. And when you seek that which you need to know, what you need to know next, you are the facilitator of the step-by-step path in your own life and in your own process that will culminate in truths and realities that you will become prepared to know. This criteria is valid everywhere, in all times, and in the future, thousands of years, million years in the future. this criteria will still be valid. Establish it deep in your own inner process, and you will ring like a crystal bell. You will understand, and you will gain enlightenment, I'm going to say, quickly. Gewa di nyo to daklo, sangi du kanegro chikimaruba, di salago parasho. I also must say that the discussion we've had tonight, the search for truth, we never think about in our Tibet. We never question what is the search for truth. We never talk about it this way. These are your questions. These are your cultural values alive in spiritual seeking. And I'm happy that we're able to talk about them here carefully. Yes. Good night.